My name is Earl McWilliams. I live up in Burrillville. I strongly support expansion of the EFSB, which this bill would do, to include more expertise that's more than just advisory. The bill we examine today would do what Massachusetts and Connecticut both do now. Both neighboring states have 9-member boards which effectively bring real expertise to the decision-making process while allowing public accountability. I've heard good things about the EFSB. I really believe that the EFSB process prevents discussion, actually stifles discussion, prevents Invenergy from answering questions which people legitimately have up in Burrillville. I want to give you 2 examples of questions that, we go to these meetings and they're sitting up there on the stage and the EFSB is sitting up on the stage. They can't say anything. EFSB can't say anything. Here's 2 examples of questions that we have for Invenergy that we've put before them that they have not been able to answer. Opening well 3A, we just heard a reference to Pandora's box. That's Pasco's Pandora's box. Will re-expose the people of our town to the MTBE contamination which killed residents up here a dozen years ago. This is not just NIMBY. This is not just not in my backyard. This well is a spectacularly lethal well that the court ordered closed. Tellingly, in its letter of intent with the Pasco Utility District, Invenergy makes clear that, and I'm quoting, Invenergy shall not be liable for any condition, occurrence, or presence of hazardous materials in well 3A or affecting the water emanating therefrom and or the toxicity of the water from well 3A generally. Invenergy elsewhere makes clear in this letter of intent that funds will be available for the construction of the treatment facility, but the design and the operation of the treatment facility will be in the hands of the village of Pasco. Best known example of MTBE contamination treatment comes from Santa Monica, California. Seriously contaminated water was remediated to drinkable quality. It took 14 years and tens of millions of dollars. In talking to representatives of Black & Veatch, who built the Santa Monica facility, we were told that the degree of initial contamination is critical to the chance to be able to clean it up. Santa Monica's MTBE pollution was 700 parts per billion. Well 3A came in at 1,700 parts per billion. Pasco can't deal with this. But we can't ask Invenergy about the MTBE because the EFSB process gets in the way. One other example of questions that we would have for them. Invenergy plans to access the site during construction and during periods of diesel operation up Route 100 through Pasco to the site. Small problem. That route takes them across a 15-ton weight-restricted bridge in the middle of the village. What does Invenergy plan to do about this access problem? Will they use other narrow residential streets during the construction phase to access the site? We can't ask Invenergy about access plans specifically because the ESB process prevents it. And the legislation before you would expand the board to include water resources people, hydrologists, who could speak to the problem that 100-foot plume of MTBE in well 3A represents to our community, to Clear River, to the Slatersville Reservoir into which it empties, to the Black Zone and to Narragansett Bay. I want to just mention one other thing about the environment and all this. One thing that we haven't talked about, which we really need to understand, my understanding is that there are 6 existing fracked gas power plants within a small radius between Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. We have a summer place up in Connecticut. There's another one going in a half-mile away from us up there. There's a clustering of these things. There's a clustering of these power plants in this region. Rhode Island is prevailing westerly winds, northwesterly winds. Rhode Island is going to be the target of these 6, soon to be 8, fracked gas power plants. One other thing that came up at a meeting in Connecticut just the other day, I'm not sure, but I think that all of these plants are fed by the Algonquin line. All of these plants have provisions whereby if there's an interruption in the supply of gas or it becomes uneconomical to use it, If there's an interruption in that, they go to diesel. Can you imagine if there's some major problem, eco-terrorism or something at the Algonquin line, you'll have these plants all going to diesel at the same time. The pollution effect of that is going to be monumental on Rhode Island. I know this is a very important issue in terms of precedents and whatnot, but we look at the environmental impact not just upon Burrillville, but upon the whole surrounding region, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. And we just don't want to see this happen. And I thank you for your time.